Thought she had her head on her shoulder because I'm feeling twice as older. I'm feeling twice as older. More sax, more sax, please. We're British, and then it ends. You're an embarrassment. Dun,
Yes.
dun.
Forgive me, but the idea of you're an embarrassment to the human race. Sax break. Just that couplet of words just makes me laugh. Like,
Kazoo!
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy, it's John, and as always, it's time to dig into some music. And today it's going to be a song and an artist offered up by John for me to go off and check out, and then we're going to come back and chop it up a bit in detail. John, what are we working with today, my friend?
So it's a band we've mentioned before, so I thought I'd give you a pop. That band is Madness.
Okay, yeah. And we've talked about Madness before, but we've never checked them out, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Did you bring them up in the context of like, was it some of the ska stuff that we had done or that kind of touched on ska, and then you had brought up sort of the difference between English ska versus or British ska versus, what we label the same over here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the one track which did go over to your side of the pond, Our House. I think you remember that one, but
Yes.
most of it's a bit of a blur. So for many reasons, we did check out, and this is a song called Embarrassment.
Okay. Well, let me go off and check out Embarrassment by Madness, and I will come back and let you know what I think.
Received a letter just the other day. Don't seem to wanna know you no more. They've laid it down, giving you their score. Within the first two lines, it bluntly read, you're not to come see us no more. Keep away from our door. Don't come round here no more. What on earth did you do that for? Our aunt, she don't wanna know. She says, what will the neighbours think? They'll think we don't, that's what they'll think. We don't, but I will, cause I know they think I don't. Our uncle, he don't wanna know. He says, we
This is interesting. One, I love the way it started, instant energy with those like that 2-beat motif, and then kind of the singing along with and over top of that portion. It's upbeat, obviously, right? Like it's got a lot of kinetic energy, but the vocals are telling a different story, or at least one that is not so I don't know, optimistic, or as optimistic as the music might suggest it would be. Uh, it seems like there's a lot of judgment coming from, I don't know, family first and foremost. I think we've, heard allusions to the uncle just a moment ago, and I think the part before that was our aunt. So I guess this is the I'm assuming they're either cousins or they're siblings. The person who has done the wrong in the eyes of family or whomever, and this narrator, who seems to be perhaps the only person in their corner, or at least someone willing enough to talk about the issue, at least in ways that aren't as sort of pejorative or looking down at the individual. So yeah, interesting stuff. I love the horns add this, sort of shot of life to the whole thing as well. So yeah, so far, interesting stuff.
disgrace to the human race. He says, how can you show your face when you're a disgrace to the human race? that you have booked was an intention that was overlooked. They say stay away, don't want you home today. Keep away from our door, don't come round here no more. Oh, Dad.
Yeah, this person sounds like they've really been shunned by people that you would think would be most important to them, like their family and stuff. So this is kind of sad, and it makes you wonder what awful thing the person did to make their family feel this way, or perhaps how close-minded their family is and the people that the family seems to be worried about the thoughts of. Like, do we have an instance where something truly wrong was done to them, or a situation where they're being like overly judgmental and closed-minded about something? And you don't know without context, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Don't wanna know, he says, this is a serious matter. Too late to reconsider. No one's gonna wanna know ya. Our mum, she don't wanna know. She says, I'm feeling twice as old. She said, thought she had her head on her shoulder. 'Cause I'm feeling twice as older. I'm feeling twice as older. You're an embarrassment.
That last line is kind of pointed, right? You're an embarrassment. Now, who's that aimed at? Is that aimed at, and who's it coming from? Depending on what is at the crux of the matter here, it could be, and it could be a two-way street too, and you decide which one you want to be on. But it could be aimed at the individual, who, in the eyes of most of their family, it would appear, like mom, dad, uncle, aunt, has done some sort of wrong or brought shame or embarrassment to the family. Or is it from that individual, or perhaps even that individual and this, I assume, sibling who's the narrator? Is it their feeling toward the family? Like, are they embarrassing for their perhaps, antiquated or out of touch or closed-minded opinion on whatever this familial issue is that we have at hand, which I still have no solid assumption on. I'm hoping that's something that, obviously, once John says, oh, this is what happened, or this is what it depicts, everything will start to make sense and fall in line. So I look forward to that. Saxophone. I mean, I loved the first sort of feature that it had in the earlier half of the track, but the one in the second was even better. All of those, like, that just those pops sounded fabulous. They were so engaging, and it gave it gave the whole thing sort of this lacquer sheen to it, which I really, really appreciated. This is good, fun, interesting stuff that, the music sort of subverts the expectations as far as what we're going to get, or what we would get lyrically. You think it's going to be this rollicking good time. It almost has that kind of sound to it, like some more modern Christmas songs have, where they inject these horn sections and all this bright life to it. But instead of, wanting someone to join you for the holidays, it's this interesting tale of family strife and perhaps even writing someone off or out of the family. All really interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to getting to know more about this song and its meaning and the band behind it. The only way to do that is to get back and cut it up with John. So let's do just that.
Mashy Niblick, he's back. So you've had a listen to Embarrassment by Madness. Please, hello.
Yeah, interesting package here. Given the dynamic between the sound and the feel of the music and the story narrative conveyed over top of, which is very different. Which I mean, come on, how many times have we talked about this in songs we've covered on this channel? But it exists here as well, and it's worth mentioning. The song begins with these two emphatic strikes, really pinned down by the drums, and there's like sort of sustained horns, and filling in the gaps between each of these are these two beat motifs appears this jaunty and pleasant pattern on the keys, and our very English vocalist. Boy, can you hear it loud and clear in the delivery of this one. At around the 13-second mark, we get some nice snare raps, which, for the sake of speaking about this song, is kind of the indicator of things to come or to change throughout this. So those raps on the snare signify some sort of change in music. And of course, from here, we get this shift in tempo as the drums come in full swing, equipped with some hand claps. This shift gives the whole presentation a bit more punch and a boost in kinetic energy, of which this song has a lot. Now, as I've been observing the flow and development of the music, our man, the singer, has been firing off line after line in this narrative he's spinning. And I'm actually keeping up the balancing act of listening to the music whilst also taking in most of the lyrical content, or at least the sentiments therein. So either the narrator or the person to whom he's referring received a letter the other day, and there are some folks who no longer wish to communicate with this person to whom he is referring. And not only do they not want to hear from the individual, they also don't want them coming round their home. And from what I can infer, it's on account of something that the person did. As the lyrics go, what on earth did you do that for? Whatever that is. And the next stanza starts off with our aunt. She don't want to know, which suggests the narrator and the person in question are actually, I would assume, siblings or maybe cousins, but I'm inclined to go with siblings on this. And this aunt sounds like a real winner, concerned about the neighbor, what the neighbors might think, as if that matters more than whatever's going on with their immediate family member, which I would, instantly started scratching my head and going, what are the grade of individuals we're dealing with in this family? And before you know it, we're getting confirmation that the uncle could very well be worse than the aunt. So here we are, as he openly believes that whoever they is, this other individual, is a disgrace to the human race, which seems a bit extreme, especially from someone who's supposed to be avuncular. I mean, I don't really know what affront has been committed by the one, and I'm going to say the sibling, but it must be pretty serious if family members are saying this kind of shit about them. That or they're just dicks. Those are the two options. After this stanza, we get another nice round of pops on the snare, and then we launch into about 30 seconds of this melodious sax work. It's capped off by another rap of the snares. And then we go into that same 2-beat sort of motif that the song started off with. And during this portion, the singer offers up, "No commitment, you're an embarrassment." Yes, an embarrassment, a living endorsement. But I'm not sure what he means by living endorsement. Like, what endorsement of what? What are we talking about here? And then he goes on about intentions booked. Was an intention overlooked? Again, not any direct specificity to the issue at hand here, but they're clearly taking issue with it. The following stanza echoes earlier sentiments about the person not being wanted or around any longer. Stay away, keep away. and don't come around here no more are excerpts that from that bit, which really educate my inference. And sadly, it looks like dad and mom are in on the same sort of shame game that they've got going on here, as the next two stanzas underscore their derision of this persona non grata in the song. Mom echoes her lamentation about feeling twice as old, when the snare gives us yet another clue of an oncoming shift in the song. This gives way to another featured sax portion, which really is buoyed by this bouncy rhythm section and hand claps. It's a rollicking, upbeat tune, despite the family drama that has unfolded lyrically. Um, the second leg of the sax tour ends with more of those snare raps and then a dramatic dum dum, two beat bit of musical punctuation where the second beat resonates as the singer delivers the line, "You're an embarrassment." And then another two beat strike, and then some sustained resonance to end the song. Um, this is a very fun song musically. It's hard not to bop and move along with the movement of this track. It really almost joyous, but lyrically it has an entirely different vibe, as it would appear void of any specificity that this person has done something that has not only let her family down, but also would incur the judgment and derision of others in society that the family is concerned with. Though this can hardly be taken as a litmus test to whether what this person done is truly right or wrong. The person at the heart of this could very well have done something worthy of all this negative energy, or just maybe the folks around her are shit people with shit morals, or at least closed minds. Regardless, I really enjoyed the horn work, and the punchy rhythms in this one. Um, I'll let you fill me in on the rest, before I have any strong feelings one way or another related to the narrative. So, for the sake of context and better wrapping my head around this one, John, tell me what you know.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, interesting stuff. So, context. This came out in 1980. I was 10. I remember it very well. I remember listening to this and thinking, what have they done? And my 10-year-old mind was thinking, oh, they've been caught shoplifting or something. That was the as bad as I could think back then as a 10-year-old. Funny enough, fast forward 20, another 15 years or something, and I was doing a temporary job working at this place, and there was a guy there. I would have been early to mid 20s, and there was a guy there who was in his late 40s, and he was a diminutive figure, and he was permanently red in the face, and it always seemed like seething and angry. And we tried to get him to open up, and he just wouldn't speak to us. And then finally he did, and he says, "Oh, I suppose you know all about it." Of course, none of us knew what the hell he was talking about. And it turned out that very famously, because I remember the case, his son, in a racial attack, had firebombed a house, killing a young Asian woman and her 3 children, all under the age of 10.
What?
And he had to live with that. And it just made me think about this song. And I still didn't know what it's about, but that was like the sort of thing, this embarrassment and, disgrace to the human race. And he said he had to live with it. And he wasn't racist at all. He didn't know where his son got it from. It just that always stuck with me, that. I mean, he's a nice guy in the end. He used to do like emergency work for volunteer work, driving organs and blood to places where it needed it desperately while someone was dying. That he would jump in a car and drive 120 miles an hour with an escort and put his life on the line to get stuff there. They do it by helicopters now, but yeah. But you're a really, really interesting story, and it always stuck with me. This is slightly different. I will get into the real thing behind it, but it just, the scenarios, sort of was crept in.
John, really quickly before you get into that, something else I wanted to bring up. That last line, right, with just the declarative embarrassment that the song ends on. At that point, I was wondering if it wasn't the other. There, after hearing all this bullshit, they finally ended on all the. I'm embarrassed. You're fucking embarrassing to me. Like all this shit you're saying over what I assume you're gonna tell me is a petty little bit of factoid or information about the individual that is for some reason brought shame to the rest of this seemingly closed-minded family. So I thought that was interesting too. It was kind of open-ended. You could interpret it how you wanted. And sort of by the end of it, I wanted to see the tables turn on these seemingly super judgmental family members, but go on.
We'll get into it. So Madness, English, started off as a ska band and became a pop band. They're from Camden Town, which is North London. And they formed in 1976. So there were various sort of messings around of group personnel and different singers, and one went off to be an actor and things like that. They were one of the heavy hitters of the 80s in the UK in terms of chart success. So in total, 13 studio albums, of which 9 charted in the top 10. Never mind the 19 compilation albums and 4 live albums and 23 top 20 singles. So after briefly changing their name to Morris and the Miners, the band renamed themselves as Madness in 1979, paying homage to one of their favourite songs by ska and reggae legend Prince Buster. Their first release was a 7-inch called The Prince, which again referenced Prince Buster, their idol, and it was released through Two Tone Records, who we've spoken about before, was a label of the Specials founder, Jerry Dammers. And so that's where they're sort of in with the ska movement. It was a surprise hit, and it got to number 60 in the charts, and so they toured with fellow Two Tone band members, the Specials and the Selector, before they then recorded their debut studio album. So, personnel. Graham McPherson, known as Suggs, lead vocals and part-time percussion. Mike Barson, piano, organ, vibraphone, marimba, harmonica. Chris Foreman, guitar, sitar, slide guitar. Lee Thompson, tenor and baritone saxophones. Daniel Woodgate, drums, fire extinguisher. Mark Bedford, bass guitar, and Chaz Smash, real name Cathal Smith, backing vocals, trumpet, and a bit of dancing. He was the Bears of his times. So that debut album was called One Step Beyond. It was released by Stiff Records in 79, and it stayed in the British charts for 78 weeks. It peaked at number 2. It went platinum. In 1980, the band's second album, Absolutely, that one there, also reached number 2 in the UK. It spawned some of the biggest hits, most notably Baggy Trousers, which got to number 3. Embarrassment, you heard, which got to number 4. And an instrumental song, which was like a loungy type cocktail song called Return of the Lost Palmer 7, got to number 7, unbelievably. The only lyrics in that is when the guy leans over and he goes, "Waiter." Very, very strange. Album reviews were generally just slightly less enthusiastic than One Step Beyond, but they were positive. However, Rolling Stone awarded the album just 1 out of 5 stars. They weren't really, at that time, this is where I get my idea of Rolling Stone being a bit of a dinosaur type magazine.
Okay.
They weren't really in with the sort of any sort of new movements within British. They didn't like ska revival at all, stating that the Specials weren't very good. And Madness was simply the Blues Brothers with English accents. Remember that. The album, like their first achieved platinum status as well. And the album's named after one of the offset expressions of the band's then tour manager and soundman, Tony Duffield, who go absolutely to everything. The front cover sees them standing outside of a Chalk Farm tube station, which is in Camden. So All Music said, absolutely does motor ahead at breakneck ska rhythms, but it never quite feels as raw as its predecessor. And that hint of gloss serves the 3 big hit singles very well. The schoolyard nostalgia of Baggy Trousers, it is all like talking about them back in their school days at school and getting into trouble. And the video has them running around in shorts, and one of the guy on the saxophone's actually on a high wire going around in the schoolyard up in the air and all that. And yeah, so Baggy Trousers has a bit of sepia-toned lilt with this extra dose of production. The terrific Embarrassment slides by so smoothly, it's possible not to realise what an expertly crafted piece of pop it is. And Return of Lost Palmer 7 has a nice element of swinging 60s lounge cinema. Madness perform with such high energy and there's such a big grin, it's hard not to get swept up in the good times, even if, after the party dies down, the memory of Absolutely just winds up seeming a shade familiar. So the song Embarrassment, second single off the album, was written mostly by the band's saxophonist, Lee Thompson. The plot of the song reflected the unfolding turmoil following the news in real life that his teenage sister, who I think was 16 at the time, Tracy, had become pregnant and was carrying a black man's child, obviously out of wedlock. So the subsequent rejection by her family and the shame felt was reflected in the song. So it is a two-edged sword. He's talking about how they reacted to the news and also what he felt about his family being an embarrassment as well.
Right.
As Thompson was on the road with the band, he only heard snippets of the story through phone calls and letters, but this was enough for him to piece together the story. The song is a clear indication of changing attitudes of the time. The real life story had a happy ending, however. Thompson later stated that when his niece Haley was born, the antipathy of Tracy's relatives completely dissolved. Now, there is a section on a sort of TV magazine show called The One Show, which deals with this. I will put a link in below, and it's on YouTube, so people can go and check this out. It's really worth watching. This part, this segment, this article, was narrated by Thompson's niece, Haley Richards, and she speaks to Uncle Lee and to her mother, and she revealed that her mother revealed it was really tough at the time, but almost like instantly, as soon as the baby was born, the family members were clamoring to look after her, and even some of them tried to adopt her because they were so smitten. Tracy, as a young girl, she had that option, but she decided to keep the baby. And so Haley grew up surrounded with love and acceptance from all members of her family. So it had a nice ending.
It is nice, but at the same time, if I'm the mother, I'm like, I'm not handing my child over to somebody whose feelings can be so fickle and change on a dime like that. You know what I mean? I'd rather have your morals solidified than, bend at the whimsy of, of loving your family member, which is great, but it's also like, you knew it was going to be your niece or granddaughter or whatever while I was pregnant with him. Where was that love then? I could have used it.
This is 1980, though.
I get it. I get it.
Very different. And if they were across the Irish Sea, I mean, that kid would have been swept away and never seen again.
Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that their fate would have been any better over here in the U.S., especially depending on what part of it they were in.
Yeah, of course.
But nonetheless, it's still, as someone who's in a biracial relationship, the idea of that being like the 16-year-old thing, I get. There's a little bit of like, oh gosh, you're pretty young for this kind of decision. But for the racial makeup of the child to come into play at all is kind of disgusting. But I deal with that here every day, so this is no stone thrown from my glass house, believe me.
Yeah, thankfully things have changed. I mean, they're not completely there, but I mean, the same as racism, homophobia. There's huge leaps and bounds taken in my lifetime, definitely, but it's still a work in progress.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
lyrics. Received a letter just the other day. Don't seem they want to know you no more. They've laid it down, giving you their score. Within the first two lines are bluntly read. You're not to come and see us no more. Keep away from our door. Don't come round here no more. What on earth did you do that for? Our aunt, you don't want to know, she says. What will the neighbours think? They'll think we don't. That's what they'll think we don't. But I will, because I know I don't. Our uncle, he don't want to know, he says. We are a disgrace to the human race, he says. How can you show your face when you're a disgrace to the human race? Sax break. No commitment, you're an embarrassment. Yes, an embarrassment, a living endorsement. The intention that you have booked was the intention that was overlooked. They say, stay away. Don't want you home today. Keep away from our door. Don't come round here no more. Our dad don't want to know, he says. This is a serious matter. Too late to reconsider. No one's gonna want to know ya. Our mum, she don't want to know, she says. I'm feeling twice as old, she says. Thought she had a head on her shoulder, because I'm feeling twice as older. I'm feeling twice as older. More sax? More sax, please, we're British. And then it ends, you're an embarrassment.
Yes. Forgive me, but the idea of you know, you're an embarrassment to the human race. Sax break. Just that couple of words just makes me laugh. Like,
Kazoo!
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
What cowbell?
really
So
celebrate it.
there's a lot about Madness, and I won't go into it all here. But so 81 saw their third album called Seven, which reached number 5, and it spawned 3 further hit singles. And the overall direction of the band at this point was definitely moving from that ska two-tone towards a more
Yeah.
polished pop sound. And you can hear a bit here.
Oh, yeah.
Further hits followed. Surprisingly, the band's only number 1 single in the UK was in 1982 called House of Fun, which is about a young man going into a coming of age sexually and going into a chemist to buy condoms. Yeah. Um, the same year saw their first compilation album, Complete Madness, which also hit the album charts at number 1 spot. Fast forward a bit. So after the 5th album, Keep Moving in 84, Rolling Stone magazine gave the album 4 out of 5 stars, applauding the band's changing sound. So not a good sign when they say that. Barson left the band citing exhaustion. By 85, their 6th studio album, Mad Not Mad, Barson's usual keyboard parts were filled by Steve Naive of The Attractions, supporting Mr. Costello. In later years, frontman Suggs has described the album as a polished turd. The album reached number 16 in the UK chart, which was the lowest position to the charts in the UK today. The singles for the album fared even worse, with the first single, Yesterday's Man, peaking at number 18. And the further 2 singles, Uncle Sam and Sweetest Girl, failed to make the top 20, which is the first time ever for a Madness single. Mm-hmm. The band then attempted to record a new studio album, and 11 demo tracks were recorded. However, musical differences arose between the band members. The untitled album went unreleased, and in September 86, the band announced they were breaking up. They then sort of went off in different things, and the band they come back, they floundered in various guises. They came back, some of them, and called themselves The Madness. But in 82, it must have been for a film, but It Must Be Love, one of their singles, was re-released and reached number 6 in the UK charts. Following that, a singles compilation, another compilation, Divine Madness, was released, and it hit the number 1 spot in the album charts. So then they announced plans for a reunion concert in 92, Madstock, which was held at Finsbury Park in London in August 92, over 2 days, I think the weekend probably. Original lineup reunited, performing for the first time since Barson left the band in 84. Over 75,000 fans attended the weekend festival, and the dancing of the crowd caused some nearby tower blocks to shake perceptibly as they resonated with the frequency of the music. Morrissey was a supporting act, and his set was met with negative reception and heckling by the audience, who threw various things at the stage, causing him and his band to walk off after only 9 songs. Barson said afterwards, "The funny thing was that I was totally cut off from British music industry living in Holland. The Smiths had passed me by. I didn't know who Morrissey was."
I'm sure Morrissey would love to hear that.
So the band is still going to this day. Their last album, Theatre of the Absurd presents C'est la Vie, was released in 2023, and it was their first studio album to reach number 1 in the UK. Bizarre. But their most successful period was 80 to 86, when the band song spent a total of 214 weeks in the UK singles chart. This is a factoid we've mentioned before, jointly holding the record with UB40 for the most weeks spent by a group of UK singles charts during the 1980s. Who'd have thunk it? And just on a little final note, I met Suggs once, and I know exactly when it was I met him. It was on August the 26th, 27th, 1991, sitting on a very low wall in a car park outside the Cornwall Coliseum after a Popular Yourself gig, who was supported by EMF. He was actually down in Cornwall producing The Farm's second album, I believe. And I sat with him, we spoke for a while. I was in such a state that time had no concept to me, but I reckon it's between half an hour and an hour. I found him to be extremely charming, thoughtful, and very humbly appreciative of my gushing praise. I think he was probably the only sober person within 2 or 3 miles of the place. And so I think he was a bit wary at first, all these teenage and young 20-year-old idiots running around. There was a lot of testosterone floating around in that evening as well. So yeah, he was a bit, but he was a really, really nice guy. And yeah, so I just sat and chatted with him for a bit, and it was fantastic. That place, Cornwall Coliseum, it was at Carlion Bay, St Austell, down on the coast. It's just a big place. You actually went down a sort of like a cliff type road to get to the beach. It's built on the beach, away from all the other stuff. And I went there, but about 10 years ago, and it had just been demolished, which is really sad,
Yeah.
because it'd been derelict. Bigger sort of venues were sort of put in Plymouth and stuff. But throughout the 60s and 70s, particularly in the 80s, loads of really huge bands played there. I know The Cure played there many times, but yeah, loads and loads of bands, and it was a real phenomenal venue. And so yeah, that was my meeting of Mr. Suggs.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, Madness, a huge band of the 80s. They went from interesting ska to very well crafted pop to sort of fairly sort of, I wasn't so keen on their later stuff. It was a bit, but they did their stuff and they made a massive impact on British culture, I think, in the 80s.
Sounds
Definitely.
like it, yeah, at least for a good chunk of a decade. So that's got to
Yeah,
count for something.
definitely. So I probably we'll see how this goes. The many fans of Madness, I imagine, but I'll probably give you. There's another song which is my favourite Madness song. But I just love the story behind this, especially when I found out about it. But I'll give you my favourite Madness song. There's a couple of other ones that will give you a bit more of a flavour about them as well.
Great.
But yeah,
Sounds good to me.
to wrap things up, thanks for listening to this, Andy.
Thank
Folks
you,
out
John.
there, please tell us what you think. If you do like this, hit the like button and drop some comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this little slice of heaven from the Nutty Boys. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And more of this meaty goodness will wing its way to your viewing pleasure 5 times a week, unless it's a leap year. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.